Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan. I am a virtual dietetic intern with the sports nutrition program. And I'm really happy here to talk to you guys all about the food demonstration we're going to be doing, which is a loaded beef taco bowl. So a couple of things just before we get started. Since this is a virtual cooking demo, if you have any questions at all, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask them. Just because I'm going to be demonstrating and speaking as well, so I won't necessarily be checking the chat box all that often, but go ahead and just kind of unmute yourself and then ask any questions that do pop up. All right, so we'll start talking about our recipe. So there's a couple of things that I really like about this recipe. One is that it provides a great source of protein for muscle building and repair, provides carbohydrates to give us energy, and it provides a lot of colorful vegetables to help us with our recovery from exercise. Another great thing about this recipe is that it's fairly simple and quick to prepare, and then it's also very modifiable. So depending on what your goals are, your energy needs are like, what your training load is like, you can easily kind of add a little bit more carbohydrate or add a little bit more color to kind of modify and accommodate your needs. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to go over our ingredients and our materials that you will need. So starting with all of the food that you will need. First, you're going to need your ground beef. So if you want to use ground turkey or chicken, that's totally fine. So the recipe is written as ground beef, but you can substitute either or. So mine's right in the fridge right now, and I'll grab it in a second. So have that available. Then you're going to need a can of black beans or any other kind of beans that you prefer. You're going to need your rice, so you can either use brown rice or white rice. You'll need taco seasoning. So a little mixed packet like this, they're really easy to use. So then for kind of like our veggies and our garnishes, you'll want some fresh cilantro. So it looks like this. So I'm choosing to use peppers and onion for my recipe and jalapeno. So I have these here. So I have a green and a yellow pepper, a jalapeno, and an onion as well. So you can use whatever veggies you want, any veggies that you prefer. Try to get like 3 different colors, just so you're getting a variety of different nutrients. Okay. Oh, and then also you're gonna have your lime, and that's gonna be for the rice later. All right, so in terms of materials, like cooking materials that you'll need, first you're gonna want a cutting board. I have here. You're gonna need your chef's knife, so be careful with that. You're gonna need a can opener. I won't show you all of these, kind of like a mixing spoon for when we're cooking our beef. You're gonna want some prep bowls, so I have here. And then paper towels, and then of course your pan for the stove. All right, so I'm gonna kind of switch my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do before we get started is we're gonna wash our hands. So you wanna wash your hands under running warm to kind of hot water for about 20 seconds. So you wanna really lather the soap. I know we're pretty much all accustomed to doing this these days. And then for about 20 seconds, and then just dry your hands with a clean paper towel or a clean rag. Okay, so next we're gonna wash all of our veggies and start with the preparation of our veggies before we go and dive into browning our meat. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash my peppers. And so for this, you just kind of want to run them under running water and just kind of rub the vegetables. And then you are going to want to wash your cilantro as well. So I I'm going to pat all of this dry with paper towels. Okay. And just kind of put everything off to this side for right now. Okay. So first, I'll show you how we're going to cut a pepper. So there's a couple different ways to do this. My knife skills aren't amazing, so I feel like this is kind of the simplest way to go about it. So what you want to do is we're going to cut the ends off the pepper. So we're going to chop off this end, and then we're going to chop off this end. And then we're going to go for the sides. So I'll kind of show you here. So you always want to kind of curl back your fingers so it's away from the blade. Slice down one end, turn it on its side, and then right down the other side. So kind of discard anything you don't need. You can keep the ends, we'll cut those up later. So then you're gonna kind of turn it straight up and down. And then you're gonna just take your knife and kind of go along each edge. Kind of avoiding the middle. And then you can kind of discard all the seeds. So you should kind of have flat edges just like that. And then what I do is I take the pepper and I slice it into thin slices. So just kind of keeping your fingers, making sure they're out of the way of the blade. And then I gather all the peppers up together and then just go the opposite direction. So I slice in thin slices and then kind of into smaller pieces. Go ahead and do this again. And it's up to you. You can leave them as bigger slices if you want, or you can cut them up a little bit smaller, whatever your preference is. Okay, and then for the ends, what I do is I just kind of cut right along each edge there, and then just kind of be creative and chop into little smaller pieces. They don't have to look perfect. Okay, so next I'm going to do the next pepper. So again, what you're going to do is you're going to turn it on its side. We're going to cut the ends off of each. And you're going to hold it straight up and down. And you're going to cut off kind of each little bump, the edges around the sides, kind of avoiding the middle in the process. Then we're going to cut into thin slices and then into smaller pieces. the ends for now because I already have a lot of peppers here. And I'm just gonna kind of make some room and put them in a bowl and set them aside. Okay. All right, so next, if you have a jalapeno, the easiest way to cut it is, again, you're gonna chop off the end, so kind of right where the stem is there. That can get discarded. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of lay it on its side there, and I'm gonna cut straight down the middle. So right in half. So just be careful, make sure your fingers are out of the way. Now it's completely up to you. The seeds, if you leave the seeds or try not to avoid them, it actually makes everything a little bit spicier. So depending on what your tolerance is, you can actually peel the seeds out or use a spoon and kind of scrape the seeds out. But if you're not sensitive to spice or you like spicy foods, you can kind of leave them in. They're not gonna harm you. So I'm gonna peel some of them out. Okay. So then once I kind of have everything cleaned up here, I'm gonna make thin slices going straight up and down. Kind of just like we did with the pepper. And then I'm gonna turn them around and kind of just chop in the opposite direction. Okay, so this is gonna go in my bowl. Okay, so we're gonna save the lime for later. Next, we're gonna do our onion. So the easiest way, I think, to cut an onion is first you're gonna chop just one of the edges off, one of the ends off, so kind of right here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that end that I just chopped off right flat on the cutting board, and I'm gonna slice right down the middle, straight down the middle. Again, kind of being mindful where your fingers are. Then I'm gonna peel my onion. So you're just gonna kind of take that top layer and peel back. And that can get discarded. I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so now we have two halves of the onion. So I'm gonna show you two different ways, two different styles kind of to chop up your onion. The first is we're just gonna dice it. So the easiest way kind of, I think, to dice it is first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make cuts kind of horizontally. So I'm gonna lay the onion flat on the cutting board, and I'm gonna just kind of slice in this direction, kind of going straight across. Usually just about one or two depending on the size of the onion. So to do this, I'm gonna have my palm flat on the onion and carefully kind of make one cut, then I'll go two, and being really mindful of where my hands are and where the blade is. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make slices going straight up and down. So it's gonna kind of go like this, just so it's a little easier to see. I know it's kind of hard with the computer, so straight up and down. Okay. And once I have my long slices, I'm gonna go ahead and then chop little pieces, kind of similar to what we did with the pepper. So you can see kind of that gives us nice little diced onions. So put that to the side. So another way you can chop up your onion is called julienne. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the onion flat on its, kind of on the edge where you did cut before, place that side flat on the cutting board. Then rather than making straight up and down slices, I want you to just kind of turn it on its side. And what you're going to do is just make very, very thin slices. These are a little bit longer than the ones we did before. Just thinner. They kind of look like this. Okay. I'm going to put that in my bowl as well. And then we have all of our veggies prepped. Okay, so next we're gonna brown our meat. So I'm gonna actually just adjust the camera so you guys can see. Normally I have my husband be my cameraman, but he is unfortunately out of town. Okay. You kind of see my stove there. So I have my non-stick pan here. I'm gonna grab my meat. You're gonna wanna have your spoon ready. Your taco seasoning ready. And quickly first, I forgot, sorry. We're gonna rinse our can of beans and strain them. So you're gonna have to grab your can of beans, your strainer, and the can opener. Okay. I'm gonna open the can of beans. Okay. Essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna dump the beans into the strainer here, and I'm gonna run it under water. And then I'm just gonna leave the beans in the strainer and just set them aside over a paper towel so that they can kind of dry. And they're gonna be going right into the pan with the meat. So you can kind of see here, we have our veggies prepped and our beans ready to go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn the stovetop on. Just gonna kind of start with medium-low heat. I open up the package of ground beef. And I feel for when it's just getting a little bit warm, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the beef right in the pan. Toss that. So I'm gonna kind of break it up with my spoon. So again, it's on kind of like medium heat, medium high heat. And then you'll notice that the ground beef is kind of really bright in color. It's very like kind of like a bright pink. So we'll know that it's starting to cook when it starts to turn brown. The good thing about ground beef or kind of ground turkey, ground chicken, it doesn't really take long to cook on the stove either. Okay. So in the meantime, while this is starting to cook, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my rice and start to prepare that. So I'm using brown rice. So you'll kind of see this says quick ready brown rice. So you'll want to look and see what the type of rices that you have at home or what you bought. Brown rice typically takes a little bit longer to cook than white rice. And depending if you have either or, it's going to affect the way that you're, how long it's going to take you to prepare. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of give this a quick stir. So for the rice, there's two ways that you can kind of go about cooking. So you can use the stovetop or you can use the microwave. So if you're gonna use the stovetop or the microwave, it's kind of similar, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna measure about a cup of rice, and then you're gonna mix it with twice the amount of water. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio between the amount of water you're gonna use to the amount of rice you're gonna use. So for today, I'm going to cook the rice in a bowl in the microwave, but I'm still gonna use the 2-to-1 ratio of rice to water. So today we're using a cup of rice. I'm gonna go ahead and measure that. And just dump it in. And then kind of give the ground beef a little stir. Cover it just so it starts to kind of get nice and brown. And then I'm gonna measure my water. So again, so I put a cup of rice, we're gonna put 2 cups of water. Okay. So in the microwave or on the stove for cooking your rice, a good way to know when it's done is that all the water is absorbed. So there's not a lot of kind of visible water in the bowl. The rice can look wet. You're gonna let it stand for a little bit, and then that will absorb some of the water as well. But you want to make sure kind of that there's not a lot of excess water. And you can even kind of taste it a little bit if you don't think it's fully done. And if it's still, the rice kind of still tastes hard, then you know that it's not fully cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rice in the microwave. I'm going to start it on high for 5 minutes. So in the beef, you're just gonna kind of stir, kind of break up the meat a little bit. Again, we're kind of looking for that brown color. So we're looking for it's kind of turn from like a pink red color to a brown color. So starting to look almost done. Once the ground beef is fully cooked through, I'm gonna add in the taco seasoning and I'm gonna add the veggies in. And the beans in as well. So we want the veggies to kind of soften up a little bit. You're gonna see that their color looks very vibrant. For the beans, we just kind of want to warm them up a little bit. And then the taco seasoning is gonna provide all of our flavor. So depending on how much flavor you want, you can add the whole packet. That's totally fine. I sometimes use about half. But we're almost there. So just kind of keep an eye on the meat. Keep stirring occasionally. I can give you guys kind of a better view. You can kind of see starting to look almost fully cooked. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, so our beef is about cooked, fully cooked through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the heat to low. And I'm actually going to remove the pan from the stove and I'm going to drain the beef. So ground beef tends to be a little bit more fatty. If you're using ground chicken or ground turkey, you're not going to have as much kind of fat in the pan there. But I'm going to kind of just gently bring the pan over to the sink and kind of tilt it and kind of let some of that grease out. And add just a splash of water to mix with the taco seasoning. So how much water you want to use, pretty much just enough to be able to cover the bottom of the pan. So again, just make sure you kind of reduce the heat to low. Okay. So I added just a little bit of water. Now I'm gonna add some of the taco seasoning. I need scissors for this. So again, I'm gonna use about half. If you wanna use more than that, that is totally up to you. And then you're just gonna mix that around. Then we're gonna add the veggies. So for demonstration purposes, I cut up a little bit more vegetables than what I put in the recipe. So I'm not gonna add all of this, and then I'm actually gonna leave some of them for my garnish as well. So that is totally up to you if you wanna put all the vegetables in to cook, or if you wanna kind of leave some in their raw form to kind of add on top of your bowl at the end. Okay. All right, So the rice has been cooking in the microwave on high for 5 minutes. So it's not done yet. It's still gonna be very hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reduce the power to 50% and I'm gonna cook it another 10 minutes longer. So again, so you're gonna kind of just stir the veggies with the beef. So I have this on kind of like a low, medium heat, kind of stirring as needed. So you'll see this kind of looks like a lot of food. Depending on how much veggies you put in here, it's about 4 servings. So you can either use it for dinner for the week, you can use it for lunch, whatever kind of you prefer. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to keep this on low heat, just kind of keeping it warm. I'm gonna add the beans in. So those are nice and warm. I'll show you what this looks like. Hopefully you can kind of see there. Okay, so while that's kind of just on warm, kind of keeping, or on low, keeping it nice and warm, and the rice is finishing cooking, we are going to get ready to finish up the rice so that we can assemble the bowl. So we're making a cilantro and lime rice. So you're gonna need your lime and you're gonna need your cilantro. So the lime is really easy. All you're gonna do is you're gonna chop it in half. So you're gonna kind of make sure you curled your fingers back, take your knife, and just go straight down the middle. Easy, right? We'll leave those aside. And then I'm gonna show you how to chop up the cilantro. So the best way to do this is you're gonna leave it as a bunch. And what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna take your knife and shave down the sides. So this will kind of pull some of the leaves from the stem. So I will show you that first. And cilantro adds a lot of great flavor if you haven't used fresh herbs before. So you kind of want to be gentle and just kind of gently shave the leaves off. You want to spend a little more time and be really careful. Try to get them all if you can. Just kind of be mindful where your fingers are. So I'm going to kind of get rid of the stem of the leaves, or the herb, sorry. Make sure there's no big stems anywhere. And if you eat them, it's not gonna hurt you. And then, so you kind of have like your bunch here. So what I'm gonna do, and when you buy a bunch of cilantro in the store, it's pretty big. So I still have some in my fridge actually that I bought for this recipe particularly. So I used probably, I would say like about 12 to 15 of the actual stems. So I just kind of took a little section off for this recipe. But you can use as much or as little as you'd like, depending on what your flavor palette is like. So if you haven't used cilantro before, I would recommend kind of starting with a little and seeing how you like the flavor. If you really like cilantro, you know, like it, go ahead and use as much as you want. All right, so what you're gonna do next is you're gonna kind of bunch it all up together in the palm of your hand, kind of tightly, and then I'm just gonna take the knife and chop in little pieces, kind of keeping it all nice and bunched, being really mindful of where my fingers are. You don't want any accidents. And then I'm gonna bunch it all up again and do the same exact thing. Okay. So that we will keep aside, ready for when our rice is done. And I can already, it's very aromatic. You can already smell how good it's gonna taste. And so when you go to store your cilantro, the best way to store it is in the refrigerator. But if you have a glass jar at home, what you want to do is fill that jar up with just about halfway with water, and you're going to stick the ends of the stems in the glass, and then cover it with a plastic bag. So and the rice should be done. So you're going to stick kind of the stems of the leaves in a glass of water, and then just cover it with a plastic bag, and that'll keep it fresh for a lot longer. All right, so let's see how our rice is doing. Okay, so it's gonna be very hot, so be careful. Okay, so take that out. All right, so again, just kind of how I mentioned before, so you'll know the rice is done when you can see there's no, oops, careful, not leading by example here. There's no visible water in the bowl when you stir it. And again, you can kind of taste a little bit if you want, to see if when it's cooled down, to see if the rice is still hard. So actually, mine looks like it needs just another minute or two. So I'm gonna stick it back in the microwave. And then in the meantime, we'll check on the meat. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. It'll stay nice and warm, and leave the lid on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my bowl to go, so for when we're ready to assemble everything, and I'm gonna grab my toppings as well. So you can use anything you want, from avocado to Greek yogurt, salsa, chopped tomato, whatever interests you, whatever you think would taste the best. Today I'm going to use Greek yogurt and salsa. I have my bowl ready. Salsa, some Greek yogurt. Should be almost done. The rice is going to be piping hot, but what we're going to do is I'm going to squeeze half the lime, and then I'm going to add the cilantro. We're going to kind of mix it around, and then we'll go ahead and serve it up. Okay. It doesn't look like there's any questions. All right, so let's see how that's doing. Oh yeah, okay. So that definitely looks done. Okay. So to finish up the rice, I'm going to squeeze half of the lime right into the bowl. And get as much juice as you can. Then I'm going to add my cilantro. Go ahead and mix everything together. You can kind of see. It smells really good. And now it's time to assemble our bowl. Okay, so again, make sure you're being mindful of what your training load is like and what your performance plate should look like. So whether you're kind of following a moderate size plate, or if you have a little bit heavier training load, adjust your carbohydrate and your veggies as needed. So I'm gonna start by serving myself some rice. So I have about a quarter of my bowl is rice. I have my beans and veggies and protein. Then I'm gonna add some extra veggies on top that are raw. And lastly, I'm gonna top with some Greek yogurt and salsa. All right. And there we have it. So that is our beef taco bowl minus the taco. All right, so I want to thank you guys all for signing on today. I know that for a lot of people, cooking can be a challenge. It does require a lot of skill, and it requires you to be creative as well. Take it from me, I was the one in college who, of my roommates, would leave chicken on top of the refrigerator, forget about it when I thought it was defrosting, and the simple things like that. So I know that cooking is not, it doesn't come easy to everybody. So I want to thank you guys for jumping on and taking the time to kind of improve your cooking skills, try a new recipe maybe, and I encourage you to keep doing that because that's the only way you're going to get better and learn to fuel your body appropriately. All right, so thank you so much and have a great night, everybody.